Good evening. I was looking for some material to speak on economics, my second blog. I earlier had a video blog on India-China economic comparisons uh, just some time ago, and this is now on China-US economic comparison and broadly other things what's happening in the world as such simultaneously. I was looking for a few data points, and these data points are interesting. One data point was that in the last video I said Chinese employment, organized formal employment, maybe 400, 500 million. Actually, it's 740 million. So in China, there is a formal employment of 740 million Chinese people. That's roughly more than 50%, 53, 4%, okay, or 55% of Chinese people are working in organized sector employee, whereas that percentage in India is hardly 7%, 10%. All are informal, unorganized sector in India. In China, it is 50% plus. And in US, I looked at Chinese formal employee strength 740 million. In US, it is 170 million. Just remember that. So if you look at the China to US employee population, 140 million versus US would be 30, no, 1400 million, 1.4 billion in China versus 340 million in US. So US population is 340, 30, yeah, one fourth of Chinese population. Does it come out here roughly? Little less than one fourth of Chinese population. But US organized sector employee 170 million into 4, 680 million is even more less than Chinese 740 million. That means in China, employment, formal employment to population ratio is higher than that of US. Something to be noted very carefully and critically. That is unexpected and very hard to believe. That an upcoming developing nations which was nowhere in 1970s today has more formal employment to its population ratio than that of US. So that is one point I was looking for. And again, this breakup of this organized sector employment in manufacturing, services, agriculture. China still has less than 50% of its employee in services, around 48%, 29% in manufacturing, and 22% in agriculture. Whereas it is US, it is very less in manufacturing. Services is more around 55%, more women in services naturally. And agriculture is also, I did not check it up closely, but not significant. So the breakup of the employment number is also important. Next data I will talk about is that again, don't take me on too much sacrosanct value. I just saw it, but remember some of this data. Another thing what Ruchit Sharma was talking about is government spending to GDP ratio. How much is the government influencing the economy vis-a-vis how much is the private capital or citizens, consumers driving the economy. What he noted is that in France, 60% of the GDP comes from government spending, and that is next to North Korea. So that's fabulous. France is screwed. Government is spending 60%, and that is driving whatever growth is there in the economy. Now, if government stops that spending, or because of Euro region regulation, Euro keeps falling, the deficit and the stuff, revenue goes down. 60% of the government spending, that figure is around 36% in the US. So 36% of the US economy is due to government spending, and China is 33%, 32%. What the hell is happening? That's a central planning, centrist economy, socialist economy. China government spending to GDP is 32, 33%, US is 36%, and France has screwed up at 60% next to North Korea. I did not check that data in India. I should have checked here how much is Indian GDP due to government spending. So these two, sort of give us enough to talk about and what is happening. So this is something very interesting we need to keep focus on. the employment numbers and how much is government influencing and how much U.S. government can keep on spending and to get, and this is very important, much of the spending like US whatever growth we are seeing because of this government spending. If US government has to cut down to 30%, 20%, it's whatever growth we are seeing, it will again collapse. So these are the areas. And another thing Ruchi Sharma said that is very important, like if you believe in Christianity but don't believe in hell, as capital markets have evolved, that profit is mine, losses are yours. So this is something very important, which Sharma has insightful mind on describing these things and many others. So these are interesting data points. We should keep it up as we build some more, comparative angles on how do we look at Chinese economy versus US economy. What is more important to see? How much is Chinese economy, budget deficit, central plus states put together? Many of the states no longer are getting their revenue from land sale. Many of them are getting their revenue from taxes, or what was he talking about for Keurjin? It is not only, it is that capital movement has started in US, in China, or state sponsored, whatever we call it. That Chinese, one of the sources of Chinese central government's revenue or state government's revenue had primarily been land sale, because land in China belongs to the communist government of China. And some of these things I need to explore further to fill the dots in that jigsaw puzzle, where each economy stands and how it performs. But certain points I found, I felt that should be shared. Few more points would have been better. Surely I'll come up with those few more points probably a little later quickly. Thank you.